Okay. Time for another episode of the Nerdy Virgin podcast. And what I should be doing is adjusting the mic stand before I start recording, as opposed to during me recording, which is what I'm doing right now. So I'm fixing the mic stand. It's working. And there we are. I'm also wearing the headphones while I'm recording this, and I'm about a half a second off of the recording. So I'm probably going to have to take the earphones off pretty soon, because it's very hard to talk and then hear myself a half a second later. On the other hand, this is what I see all the professionals doing. So maybe this is the way to do it right. And the advantage is I can hear how the sound is as it's happening, which is probably why the professionals do it the way they do it. So I'm trying to do this professionally. Professional! And I was talking to another comedian who was saying, you know a lot about Star Trek. I basically told him the two things that I feel like I know well: Star Trek and clinical depression. And he said, you may want to go with Star Trek. I want to go with Star Trek on that in terms of what to talk about in a funny way. I'm Googling Star Trek The Next Generation Season 1, because in the last episode I talked about Encounter at Farpoint. So today I'm going to talk about The Naked Now. Now I can't believe this. Let me tell you what's happening right now. So I Googled Star Trek The Next Generation Season 1. And this is Google that's coming up, right? This is Google. And under episode 1, or season 1, episode 2, The Naked Now, the description is, at the trial, Q continues to denounce humans while Picard defends his race and convinces Q that the upcoming mission at Farpoint will be the perfect opportunity to prove his point. That wasn't The Naked Now. That was Encounter at Farpoint. Google has the wrong definition, or the wrong synopsis of season 1, episode 2 of Star Trek The Next. Even Google is not as big of a nerd as I am. This is so sad. Who do I email? I use Gmail. Should I just send it to myself? Dear Google, you're wrong. Now if I click on the link to it, it takes me to Wikipedia. Is Wikipedia right? Yes, this is correct. Which is basically that the Enterprise finds another science vessel, and the model that they used for this science vessel is the model that they always use, the model of the ship. It's the model they always use for whenever they need to have a Federation starship that's not the Enterprise, that's either in trouble, about to be destroyed, or uninhabited because the crew is dead. It's originally in Star Trek 3. It was the USS Grissom, which got blown up. It is the God, how would I even describe it? It's the hatchback of the Starfleet vessels. That's what it is. So they beam over to the ship, and they find the crew dead, and they bring back this, I think, virus that makes everybody act drunk. AKA they lower their inhibitions, and they, this is the episode where Data has sex with Tasha Yar. Data gets drunk in this, which he's an android. I'm not sure why that happened. And they basically have to figure out why they're acting weird. The entire crew is acting weird. People are frolicking all over the place. Picard and Dr. Crusher are flirting in a weird way. And they discovered, and the other weird thing about this episode is that it's kind of a sequel to an original series episode where the same thing happened to the original series crew. And they reference that in this episode. They're researching. At one point, Riker says, "Where did I hear this before? Or this virus that makes people drunk. This sounds familiar." This is basically a redo of an original series episode. And this is the second episode in. There's all these other things they could do. But the other thing, here's the other thing. I don't want this to be just me making fun of Star Trek for every episode. Because what I was thinking about with this. All right, I got to take off the earphones because I can't handle it anymore. What I'm trying to figure out, because Star Trek is very good about every episode. There's a point that they're trying to make. And I'm trying to figure out what the point is of this episode. Now, Wesley does save the ship because I think there's a star that's about to blow up, or there's an asteroid that's about to hit the ship. That's right. And when Wesley Crusher got drunk, he went down into engineering and screwed up the engines. Or someone else in engineering got drunk and they screwed up the engines. One of the two. The engines got screwed up. And at the end of the day, Wesley helps save the day, and I think Picard begrudgingly says, all right, he's kind of useful. Well, all right, he kind of did okay. Let's figure out something to do with him. I guess he's not going away. I guess we're still doing the kids thing, but the kid actually helped. That I think it was a bad day for Picard, because I think Picard was saying there's no reason why we should have kids on this ship. I'm going to kick all the kids off the ship. And Riker was saying, they're going to be fighting you. And Picard said, yeah, but I'm right. What's going to happen? You say one of the kids is going to somehow magically save the day? They're all morons. Well, not Wesley Crusher, my friends. Oh, sorry, it was not Wesley who removed all the chips. It was the chief engineer. In the first season, they kept having they had rotating chief engineers. They never explained why. And I could never tell if it meant that there were several chief engineers that were on the Enterprise, or if they just kept getting fired. We didn't see them die, necessarily. We didn't see them get fired. There was just a new one every week. I think they were getting fired. I think Picard was like, I don't like that guy. I don't know. I don't like that guy. I want him out of here. I don't like the way he's looking at me. I don't like him. And then finally, when LaForge was made chief engineer in season 2, he kept whatever he was doing, he kept the job. What the other guys, I don't know what they were doing, but it was just a revolving door of engineers. There were some HR issues in engineering for a long time before LaForge went in there and had to clean it up. So I again asked myself, what's the point of this story? What are they trying to say with this? Well, what I find fascinating is that when Gene Roddenberry was creating The Next Generation, what he told the writers humanity in the 24th century is more evolved, so there's not going to be interpersonal conflicts between the human beings. Everyone on the Enterprise, they get along because we're at a higher stage of evolution where we don't get in fights. So the writers, in turn, had to do something to come up with conflict. So I think basically what we're talking about is that in this episode, the crew gets infected with something that enables the writers to get around Gene Roddenberry's directive. I think that's what happened. It was really who created the virus. I believe it was the writers. The writers created the virus. But this notion of losing control, and this notion of you've got this crew who is supposed to represent what we should be acting like, and then comes this drug basically in the form of a virus that causes us to lower our inhibitions and wreak havoc. Now, I am the child of an alcoholic, and I don't drink. I've avoided it. I have addiction issues. For me, it's sugar. And it's sugar and caffeine for me. And I've tried to kick them, and I failed. So, but the sugar and the caffeine don't make me lower my inhibitions. The sugar and the caffeine just make me double down on my inhibitions. So now not only am I inhibited, I'm much more tightly wound. It's a dumb thing to be addicted to, the more I think about it. Oh, here's some notes, production notes. Gene Roddenberry wanted to include an episode revealing the characters' motivations to the audience early in the series. Interesting. Interesting. It revealed their motivations, and I guess who they were interested in. That's what it did. I see. Well, that's a way of doing it. But again, I don't want this to be, I don't want this to be trashing the episode. That's not what I want this to be at all. What I want to do is I want to somehow link this episode with chronic depression that I feel. Like right now in my life, I don't lower my inhibitions. You know what's interesting about what I just read there is he wants to reveal the motivations of each person. And when your inhibitions are lowered, maybe your true motivations are revealed. And one thing I've been struggling in my own life is that I feel like I'm so mixed up and depressed right now that sometimes I see what my motivations are, but I find really elaborate ways of pretending not to know what they are. And this is why my mom would always get upset with me growing up. You're lying. Stop lying. Stop lying. You're lying. You're lying. Stop lying. You're people pleasing. You're people pleasing. Stop people pleasing. That's why she said that. And my motivation is to, become a comedian. And I don't feel like I'm doing enough to do that. But I think now, by talking about Star Trek in a way that's funny once every 10 minutes, I think that's really going to be the key to to propelling me to stardom. I really think that's going to be the key. I was never. This is not one. I got to be honest with you. This is not one of the episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation that I've watched over and over again. This is only the second episode, really, and basically what you're saying is come watch this adventure science fiction show where people go all the way across the universe and we watch them get drunk for an hour. It was basically, you don't need to go all the way to the other side of the space to get drunk for an hour. You can do that anywhere. That could be a Cheers episode. But it was, so I'm not a huge fan of it. But again, what I keep saying, I don't want to bash it though. I want to get to the meat of it. What's the gist? What is the gist of this episode? What is this episode saying? What is the point of this episode? What is the theme? So I'm looking at the timer. Has this been 39 minutes? Have I been talking for... This can't be 39 minutes. It says it's 39 minutes. I don't think that's right. I don't buy that. That's what I thought. Okay, it's really been... It's been 13 minutes. I see what's going on. That makes more sense. This feels more like, it could feel like 39 minutes to you. But to me, no, 13 minutes. But the thing about here, I think I'm an alcoholic. I really do. Technically, I should be going to Al-Anon because I'm the family member of the alcoholic. But my mother told me, Josh, I think you're an alcoholic. You should avoid alcohol. Just don't go down that road. Don't do what I did. It's you get that monkey on your back, you'll never get it off. So I avoid it. And I'm not doing all the things I should be doing, like going to meetings and what have you. I'm trying to handle it all myself. And I'm failing at it miserably. And why I say I think I'm an alcoholic is because when I describe the idea that I could just imbibe something and it would lower my inhibitions, and I'm somebody who has, only ever been intimate once in my life. I didn't lose my virginity until I was 32, and nothing has happened since. The prospect of just, snapping my fingers and all of the things that are preventing me from getting what I want go away, I find that very appealing. But the other thing that just struck me though is that what are my motivations? Why is it that even in the 24th century, they still need to get drunk for us to see what their motivations are and for them to act on their motivations? The irony is that Gene Roddenberry, in attempting to portray the perfect human society, ironically, I think has created the appearance of the perfect human society. And these things come along that break that up, and what we see is the imperfections. And maybe that's, I don't know how, and that maybe that was on purpose, for all I know. But I'm when I can't snap my fingers, or when I won't snap my fingers, I'm really being forced to face myself, and I'm asking myself, what are my motivations? Why am I sitting here at 12:48 a.m. on a Monday in the hopes that this is somehow going to connect with somebody, and they'll tell somebody about it and tell somebody, so in a weird way, am I suggesting then that if I were to be infected by this drunk disease from Star Trek The Next Generation, while everyone else would be fornicating on the ship and acting crazy, I would be podcasting and doing a better job of marketing myself? Is that what would happen to me if I start drinking? Because at this rate, if that's the case, maybe, bring the whiskey now. Maybe what they meant was romantic motivations. I'm too afraid to date. I'm terrified of it. I'm just terrified, beyond terrified of it. I think I envision the worst case scenarios, and then I avoid even trying, and I reward myself from saying, look what I have avoided. And I see how pointless that is, because it's life, and one way or another, bad things are just going to happen. That's what life is. Life is just the gradual erosion of perfection towards death. Entropy. It's the releasing of energy over time. So things are going to break no matter what path I choose. I was walking along, minding my own business, working at a comedy club. Boom, pandemic. So if that's the case, and bad things are going to happen no matter what, I may as well go for what I want to go for on all levels. So, this podcast is one thing I'm going for. The Star Trek themed podcast that starts out as me babbling on about Star Trek and then ends with me just having a therapy session with nobody. Actually, this is therapy with myself, which is probably not recommended by anybody, because when I get to a dark place, I can talk myself into many things that are probably not in anyone's best interest. So, alcoholism, that's what I'm thinking about. What are my motivations? I want to sell out medium-sized venues as a comedian. I want to get paid to be a comedian and a writer. And I would like to have a girlfriend. I've talked about being bisexual before, but I think... All right, now we're getting really deep here. I would want something more just random and sexual with a guy, but when I think about being in a relationship, I feel myself with a woman. But I'll never know until I try. Either way. There's something juicy for you. Because just when I think about the aspects of being in that long-term relationship, I feel like it would be with a woman. So what am I admitting to here? I want to be in a relationship with a woman, but, casually do something with a guy, I guess is what I just admitted. See, I didn't need to get infected by a disease to admit that. So if I was on the crew and I got infected by the disease, I would sleep with I would sleep with Yar and Data. It would have been perfect. All right, so I'm gonna try doing this while wearing the headphones again, so I can hear what I sound like. Where was I? Oh, right, the threesome that I'm having with Yar and Data, which is now officially the nerdiest thing I've ever said. That's what I win. But I think the other thing that appeals to me about lowering my inhibitions is that I close myself off emotionally so much, and that's what's making me sick. Is how much I hold off, how much I bite down on expressing how I feel. And I think for me, depression is the state that I reach when I'm not allowing myself to feel. And usually it's anger and sadness. And if I just sit down and feel it, then I process it, and then I feel, I don't want to say I feel better because that's a myth. I feel less depressed. I wonder if the crew of the Enterprise would rather go through that again or the Borg. Because, I mean, in a weird way, both of them were life-threatening because they all got drunk and the ship almost got blown up by the asteroid. But they got to be drunk and have some fun versus the Borg, which was maybe what they needed. You know what they should have done? Here's what they should have done. They should have kept that plague or that disease, and whenever they encountered the Borg, they all get drunk and then deal with the Borg while they're drunk. That way, at least, let's, in between fighting the Borg, we'll have a threesome. It'll at least be a little. Okay, so here's some inside baseball for you. I'm recording this. I'm using Final Cut. Not Final Cut. I'm using Adobe Premiere. Where did that come from? Final Cut. I haven't had an Apple in years. But at any rate, when I started recording it, I wasn't recording from the beginning of the timeline. It was in the middle of the timeline, so that's why I thought, I'm 39 minutes in. And so I had to stop right now to move it to the beginning of the timeline because I want to know exactly how long I'm going. And I'm currently at 28 minutes and 21 seconds. Now, I'm supposed to be covering the second episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, and I feel like I've done that for about 5 minutes, and then it just devolves into me whining. So maybe that's the pattern here, is that I don't talk about the whole episode for however long I talk about it. I mention it briefly, and then I go and then I just dive headfirst into narcissism. But where was I? Right, not expressing how I feel. So lately I've just been trying to practice just articulating how I feel. See what if I were to lower my inhibitions, what would I be feeling? What am I feeling right now? Well, nauseous because I just had 3/4 of a bag of almond M&Ms and a Dr. Pepper and a shrimp cocktail. That was my dinner. A shrimp cocktail from Ralph's, a Dr. Pepper, and almond M&Ms. And I wonder why I'm not at peak physical health. Perfect. That's gonna affect me in the morning, ain't it? So what's the conclusion of this? What's the point I'm trying to make with all this? What is the point I'm trying to make? What is the point Star Trek's trying to make? If that disease were to afflict me, what would I reveal about myself? What would my motivations be? Who would I be interested in? Well, I don't know because I don't go out. I don't even try in life. I mean, let me look. I mean, I can pull up Tinder right now and ask myself if I were the victim of this plague. Let's look. Let's pull up Tinder. I'm not gonna name any. I'm not gonna say any names, but I'm just gonna look at the pictures and see who I find attractive and who not. I don't. Okay. Um, so this one, she's very attractive. Um, she's got a lot of tattoos on her arm, which I find attractive because I. This is a joke I use in my act occasionally. When I see that, I just assume that she knows how to throw knives well. I don't know why that's. I don't know why that is, but I just get the sense, oh, she could protect me. No other pictures and nothing in her no description of anything. And now what I do is I look at the picture. I look at the picture and I figure out ways that I can say no to this. What and my fear here when I'm looking at this particular person is, why do they have a check mark on Tinder? Does that mean they're Tinder verified? Well, my fear on this one is that she is not going to put up with my depression and neuroses. That's my fear there. So I'm going to say no. Okay, this next one, I'm going to be honest. This next one, it might be a toss-up as to which of us is more depressed. And I know this sounds terrible. I mean, I know beggars can't be choosers, but I don't want another depressed person. Okay, this next one is not at all interested in anything that I'm interested in. That's my first hot take on this. Nothing. Not at all interested in just ice. Here's how this would work. She's like, so what are you interested in? And I say Star Trek, and by the time I get to the star of Star Trek, she's left the room. I can't do this. Life's too short. No. Okay, this next one. We're gonna yell at each other. That's my fear on this one. We're gonna yell at each other. I don't know why. I don't know what she's exuding that tells me that, but I see screaming and yelling happening, and so I'm too afraid to even go there. This next one. This next one's been through a lot. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? Who am I to say that? But this next one is like we might be a kindred spirit on this one. There might be a shared history of all the terrible things. I think she's probably had it a lot worse than I've had. That's the vibe I'm getting. And what it is, it's nothing in her looks because she's very lovely. It's the energy of her eyes is saying, there is no end to human cruelty. Like I've seen. It's kind of like in that movie Altered States, where William Hurt discovers at the very end when he's trying to unlock the secrets of the universe that there is nothing there. I feel like she's seen that abyss, and she's back from the abyss, and she doesn't want anything serious. No to this one. All right, this next one, there's no picture. It's just a blank screen, which might be the best bet. All right, here's what just happened. I'm looking at the picture of this next person. I'm looking at their age. And the first thought that came into my mind is, oh, that's old. And the second realization that came to my mind is, that is exactly my age. Oh, man. Okay, with this next one. This is another one. She looks to me like we're going to be, we can't both be depressed. We can't all be depressed at the same time, can we? At least take turns. I'm attracted to this next one. And why I'm saying no to this next one is because she's out of my league. Not to say that the others were more or less attractive. I just don't want to be that guy. But but there's a kindness here, and I'm sure the others had kindness as well. I'm not, that I'm physically attracted to this one, and there's a lot of pictures of her, out. Not necessarily at parties, but out and about. And that my first fear is, oh, she's going to want to do things. She's going to want to go to things. And I'm very bad at going to things. Yeah, I don't think she would. I don't think she would be into me. That's she's above my. She's out of my league. That's the vibe I'm getting. Is it true, or is it me just being too afraid to commit or try? Yeah, same with these next ones. Out of my league. Okay, can I complain about something? Why is the first profile picture with some people you wearing the mask? I can't tell anything if you're wearing the mask. Second picture, not wearing the mask. Good. I see the second picture. Another person who's out of my league. Okay, good. Just checking. Just verifying. Let's see. And now I'm just scrolling through and saying no without even looking. This next one, I will not be able to satisfy her. That's my thought. That's why I'm saying no to that one. This next one, I will not be able to be there for her emotionally. This next one, has too much joy. And not to say that I'm unattracted to joy, it's that she's, in order to maintain that, she's going to need to not be around me. I think this next one wants somebody who has furniture. This next one is going to hate that I don't want to. Yeah, this is another one. She's going to want to, go surfing or go walk the dog, go dancing, go get out there and embrace life. And my answer to that will be, I'll go as far as have some soup at a place. That's it. Anything beyond that, not interested. This next one is intelligent enough to know that it's not going to work. This next one is I think like the fifth or sixth time that I'm crying in her lap, she's going to go, I can't do this. I'm not a therapist. This next one is going to be so angry at me for anything that this next, she's just going to be angry with me. I'm going to walk in the room and she's going, no, already. Nope. And what I'm doing right now is basically this, this is how I date. I go on Tinder and I figure out all the ways they're going to go wrong. And I say no. And that's, I find all the, the different problems that I could see. And I say no. And that is how my life is. So if I were to take this episode of Star Trek The Next Generation and really run with it, I guess what I would have to take from it is I need to at least understand what my motivation is and at least come out and say, hey, yeah, I don't want to be alone the rest of my life. I want to be in a relationship. Which is so depressing to admit that because being alone, being alone is so wonderful on so many levels. It's just so much easier. It really is. But alas, the soul and the body wants what it wants. Which is sort of a quote from Woody Allen. I know, probably not the best guy to quote from. Well, this feels good. I think we're at about 40, 45 minutes. That's good. This is good. All right. Next week we'll do the next episode. Hopefully Google gets it right. Am I right, people?